Hi, I'm Christan Griego with Griego Mouthpieces, and today I want to talk to you about throat sizes. I've gone into a few other aspects of mouthpiece design, and throat is a touchy one to me because I feel like when people do throat modifications, they generally go too far. It does have a lot to do with flow, airflow. The throat in relation to the back bore are crucial to having the air flow at the correct rate for all registers, not just one register. You have to be aware of what the throat size does for all registers for you, not for your friend that got the magic unicorn and you can't find it when you go to their unicorn. Your unicorn may be different than their unicorn. And what I mean by this is going too small, you're going to have a smaller sound. Yes, it's going to compress or keep the air from going through, and you're not going to be able to dump a ton of air. So I want a bigger throat, you say. Well, great, but then you can't play soft and resonant. Your softs will be small because in order to play soft, you're going to have to provide the compression at the aperture, your face, which can lead to working harder than you want and fatigue. So you don't want that either. So what's the right answer? Well, back in the day, people used to take a stock Bach 5 and they'd go one letter size drill. So the stock Bach throat would be 279.279, and then they would go to the next letter size, which is 284. And I actually brought a couple of the drills here. Now, 284 is what it measures with your calipers, but what does it end up being by the time you drill out the throat? And what I mean by that is if your lathe or whatever you're drilling it out with has any wobble, it's going to run big. So go to a reamer, right? You're going to go to a machinist reamer and you'll guarantee your accuracy. Yes, if you're chucking on it on center, as long as you're run out. If you do a 281, you're only going 2,000ths over. I guarantee you, you're probably going to go a couple tenths big and end up at 282. So you have to think about this, right? Well, it's not just that. You're taking a stock mouthpiece, which has the last radius in the cup to the throat, should be tangent. So it should be, boom, radius, flat, straight, throat, right? The second you make it larger, your radius goes like this, and all of a sudden, it's no longer, that last radius is no longer tangent. And the design intent in my world, whenever I'm looking at things, is it's now wrecked. Sometimes people, they would go one additional size up, which is now in the 290s because they didn't have machinist tools and they would just drill out the mouthpiece. Now you get in the 290s, you went 10,000ths. And again, 10,000ths, you have that last radius, which should be tangent to the straight, the throat. Now it's not. All that last radius is now getting totally blown out. The back bore is getting totally blown out. And so now you have a very big, very long throat. So you're losing some of the, and the intonation is going to start suffering because the throat length is now 30% longer than it was stock. So you did two things. You destroyed the geometry going into the throat, and then you destroyed the back bore. So if you lost 30,000ths because you made a longer throat, you lost 15,000ths probably on your back bore side and 15,000ths on your cup side. Both geometries were affected. That's where it gets very tricky for me. So whenever we do a throat modification, we'll go to the CAD program and we'll offset our throats to the desired geometry. Then we'll inspect and evaluate how much back bore we're possibly going to lose. And we'll make adjustments there, and we'll make adjustments with the radius going in to the throat so it becomes tangent again and you have a smooth rather than going like this and all of a sudden it just drops. And I hope that makes sense, but you have to be really careful. A lot of times, tenths of thousandths will make the throat perfect for you. But when you focus on 279, 283, 285, 295 for tenors, for bass, or trumpet, doesn't matter. 0.144, a little smaller. But if you're working with a mouthpiece craftsman, focus on very small adjustments in the throat, because just a couple tenths of thousandths with a slight adjustment on the engagement may be absolutely perfect. If you need a little bit more free flowing, you can diminish the gap a little bit, and then a couple tenths of thousandths, and then you'll get the window where you want it to be for all registers. If you start jumping 3, 4, 10 thousandths, the window's too big and it's hard for you to narrow down what you need or want. And so honestly, I had a friend of mine, Jeremy, say, at what point, mouthpieces are expensive. You're buying one, two, three, trying to figure it out. At what point do you just fly up and work with you? Because that's what he did. And then he got what he needed. And there's plenty of craftsmen out there that are doing mouthpiece modifications and making custom mouthpieces, and they know what they're doing, and they'll do things in a very small window, as opposed to most players will the pendulum, when it swings, will swing one way too far, either too small and too tight, or too big and too open. And then it'll be honeymoon period, great for a few minutes, days, weeks, and then the workload starts coming in. And then you start becoming aware of the issues. So that's my thoughts on mouthpiece throat size. There is not one throat size that's perfect. There's a good design overall balance between the cup, the throat, and the back bore, and the engagement. When all these things line up, no matter if it's a small throat, you can make that play incredible, but the throat length has to be considered when it's a smaller throat. And same thing with big. You can make it play quite well, but the shape of the volume of the cup and the shape of the back bore and all these things come in. It's not just one aspect. And I hope people are starting to grasp that as I'm talking about these subjects. It's not just one thing. It's the symbiotic relationship between all the components. Man, I sound like I'm marketing now. But seriously, it is. It's all and it's very small, minuscule changes to give you what you need for all the registers. For me, the difference between fracturing my high D and playing full bodied is tenths of thousands. And I learned that over the years, making mouthpieces for myself, what works and what doesn't. And I hope when you're testing all these mouthpieces, you have that little black book with the cup diameter, cup depth, the throat dimensions, your engagement in your lead pipe. You change lead pipes, things may change. Keep track of these things and start figuring out and make that pendulum swing smaller and smaller. So as you get further on in your career and in your music, you can know what works for you, not just guessing. And I think this works, but you can absolutely know. And that's a good place to be. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you around.